worse. There, how's the sound? Is it better now? I do apologize, but we're getting it sorted out. I haven't had problems like this in, God, long time. So I almost forgot how to do it, but I think I'm back. I think it's good. Yes. Okay. You guys are hearing me good. All right. Thank you. Looks like we're back and at it. Welcome back to the second half hour of the Paranormal Portal, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my apologies for the technical issues tonight, but I think we should be in good shape now. I do want to say after the show, and I didn't remember to give a shout out last night, but after the Paranormal Portal, keep your eyes peeled because if you're listening on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, or TalkStream Live, you can stay tuned for Paisley Wild coming up next in the spaces between is her show rather, and she'll be following us right away after this. And if you watch on YouTube, you can check out her show at youtube.com/thespacesbetween. The spaces between. I got to remember to breathe. So, I guess we're back at it here. So thank you guys for your patience, for your understanding, and for coming back. It's just kind of what you got to do sometimes, I guess. So we got lots of stuff to get through tonight. A whole bunch of articles and things that we're covering. First and foremost, I want to go back to the Factinate article that we've been covering for the last few shows. It's a really, really long article, and it's basically an aggregation of Reddit posts of people talking about the strangest things they've seen, unsettling experiences, and it's from Factinate.com. And these are a bunch of short blurbs from Reddit that people have posted, some longer than others, but they've been it's been a really good list. I've really enjoyed these stories. Again, we can't really vouch for any of them, but they're represented as true, so we can represent them here as allegedly true stories. Again, I can't prove that. Can't prove any of this stuff happened, but I do my best. But let's get to the list again, and we're going to start out on number 45. And number 45 is Like Father, Like Son. So let's get into this. It says, I'm a law enforcement officer. In November of 2012, I was on a regular patrol when a Dodge Challenger SRT-8 blew past me on the highway going 99 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone. Well, I whipped my car around and the chase was on. The Challenger was outgunning me with speeds reaching 131 as fast as my Vic would go. Well, on one particular road, the Challenger turned down. There was about a 4 mile stretch of straight, hilly road that has a T intersection at the end. I'd almost lost sight of the car, but happened to catch its taillights just in time to see him turn east at that intersection. Now, this is where it gets weird. I remember coming up to the T intersection, trying to slow down, within, I'd say, maybe 200 yards from it. I looked down at my speeds and noticed I was going way too fast to make it, approximately 95 to 100 miles per hour. I remember hitting the brakes as hard as I could and seeing the dirt berm coming up quick, and I remember closing my eyes and asking God to watch over my kids, because I knew I had made a fatal mistake, and I was a goner. But nothing happened. No loud crash, no tires squealing, no glass, no airbags, or anything of that nature. I opened my eyes and I was traveling eastbound from the northbound road at 50 miles per hour. It still drives me crazy to this day, wondering what happened. Did I die and this is all a dream? Did the universe reach out and save me? I wish I knew the answers. I even caught the guy as a highway patrolman had put out stop sticks a few miles down the eastbound road. From the video on the dash cam, I was 35 seconds behind the Challenger. Later, I got home from work and I was telling my dad the entire story. What he tells me next absolutely floored me. Apparently, he had pretty much the same experience when he was a truck driver. He was overloaded, driving on a slick, wet roads, and was traveling down a hill when his brakes became too hot and quit working. Which is weird because the exact same thing was going on with my car. In fact, I literally had to blow through 2 stop signs on the northbound straightaway without slowing because my brakes were smoked. They were done. I remember seeing them glowing orange after the pursuit was over. Anyway, he remembers the truck skidding and the trailer turning sideways. Then all of a sudden, he's on the adjacent street traveling normally. He doesn't remember the directions the roads were going, and I got pretty freaked out. So I can't make that particular connection, but he told me how creepy it made him feel. I don't know. I'm kind of in a weird spot right now. I don't know how I'm supposed to be feeling at this moment. I need to see if any other family members have had similar experience. That's really wild. And, I love those kind of stories because they imply some kind of divine intervention and whatever form that means. And I don't claim to know who or what is responsible for that happening, but I believe that kind of stuff does happen. And I think it's wonderful when it does. I often question why, again, I just said this on a show not just a few shows ago. I was like, well, why doesn't it happen for everybody though? And that's the hard part to understand. We just don't know. I guess everybody has a journey, and this guy's journey wasn't up. So something steps in and says, nope, not your time yet. So very cool story though. We don't know who that story's from because there's no attribution here at the end of it. So we don't know, but very powerful. Number 46, the creepy high school. I've had a few strange and creepy experiences growing up. The creepiest by far, though, was when I was in high school. It was summer, and my mom had left her laptop home for me to use to pass the time during the day since she had left me no chores that day. Our house, an old 2-story building that was built in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It was hardwood floors throughout the first floor and carpet on the seconds because of the age of the building and the fact that the second story was a later addition. No matter where you were upstairs, you can hear and often feel when someone's walking around downstairs. If you have ever lived in an old house with hardwood floors, you understand what I'm talking about. So one evening I was laying out on the floor in my room whilst I used the computer. And, it's AIM. What is that? Is that AOL's Instant Messenger? AIM was a must given the fact that it was the turn of the millennium and MSN hadn't figured out the whole Mac/Microsoft bridge yet. I remember hearing my stepdad drive into the driveway at the back of the house. Hopping to my feet, I looked through the navy blue curtains and could see the red hue of his burgundy Chevy Denali in the driveway. I immediately laid back down and told my friend that I had to log off because the stepfather was home and he was going to be mad that I was using my mom's computer, even if it was with permission. Around this point, I heard him set the alarm on his car, walk up the porch steps, fumble with his keys, and lumber into the den where he heavily dropped off his stuff. I cursed under my breath and hastily logged out. Gathered up the computer and I slinked my way back to the stairwell, ready to take my licks. However, when I got to the stairwell, I noticed all the lights were off downstairs still. I thought, well, that's fine. Sometimes he doesn't turn on lights. It's his house. He knows where his stuff is. So I force a nervous chuckle and head down the rest of the stairs into the darkness of the first floor. Sorry about using her laptop. She said I could. Silence greeted my words. Odd, I thought. Usually he chides me or otherwise takes me down a notch thinking he is in the bathroom. I set the laptop on the couch in the den and began to leave. It was then, as my eyes finished adjusting to the light, that I noticed it. His things were not where I had thought they would be. My heart skips a beat and my eyes fly to the window that looks into our backyard and driveway, and the light is on, but there's no Denali. Fearing a burglar, I rushed to the back door, only to find it locked securely. Too afraid to do anything else, I grabbed the cordless phone and hightailed it to my room, locking myself in. This is where the experience went to a new level. Sitting in my room, panting and shaking as I held the phone, I could both hear and feel as multiple people were walking around on the hardwood floor. Some people even felt like they were stomping. Realizing that I might not be alone, I thought of the only thing a crazed teenage girl could think of. I called my friends across the street. That's the best thing to do. Call your friends. The first friend was a talking robot. I figured she would never answer. I was used to her busy signal, but I had to try. Punching in the number quickly, I brought the phone to my ear and waited. Dial tone, 3-ring, voicemail, darn it. I Dialed up my second friend, and I felt I had a chance. She was never on the phone, but busy signal. Sure, the third friend, the one I was talking to online, would answer. Busy signal. Dial up, I don't know what FML, yeah. So I'm sitting there listening to the footsteps and the dial tone as I'm trying to figure out if I should try the first friend again. Static crackled through the dial tone and broke my thoughts as I stared at it. Almost immediately, the static shift from a crackle to laughter, and I straight up opened my door and chucked the phone down the hall. The footsteps got louder, and I tried to think out a resolution to the problem. I needed the third friend off the internet. I needed someone to validate that I wasn't going crazy and hearing things. But the only way to get her offline would be to go to get the computer from the first floor. Swallowing hard, I threw open the bedroom door and made a mad dash for the computer. I grabbed the computer and rushed back upstairs. While I was down there, I could hear the footsteps in the other rooms other than the ones I was in. Rushing back to my room, I hopped back online and forced my friend to get off the internet so I could call her. Retrieving the phone from the hallway, I relocked myself in and dialed her up. When she answered, I recounted what had happened and asked her if she could hear it. For listening purposes, I made my way towards the stairwell. Eventually it stopped, and then things seemed to start back up again. Only lights were turning on. Inching down, I realized it was my mother, and told my friend that I would talk to her later. After a little talk with my mom, I found out that she had been home for about 5 minutes. And this had all started about 7 p.m. Even if my mother had been way off and arrived 15 minutes before, that still would leave me with 15 minutes of unexplained phenomena. It happens when it happens. Number 47. All right, no calls, no messages. All right. If any of you in the chat room want to chime in, by all means, go ahead and do so. But frame it with @Paranormal Portal, so I'll see that orange block. Because, I don't know, it's hard to get my attention when I'm reading. I'm a kind of a monofocus kind of person. All right. A hair-raising tale. Who was the last story? Kuma PJ was the one that wrote the last story. So, thank you for sharing your story. That's really cool. Excuse me. I was lying on my bed watching telly, and I could hear a weird scraping sound. I turned the telly sound off and listened, and there was nothing, so I shrugged it off and went back to watch my telly. 5 minutes or so passed, and I could hear the scraping again. So I turned the sound off, got up, turned my bedroom light on to look, and what do I see? The biggest spider I've ever seen in my life. It turns out this spider was big enough that I could hear its legs scraping the covering between my wall and my ceiling. It was loud enough to be heard even over my telly. I was thankfully able to trap it in a jug and took it and threw it out into the neighbor's yard. Oh, that's nice. Give them to the neighbors. Everybody loves a huge spider. That's terrible, though. Oh, look at that. I like these spiders. These spiders, I think, are adorable. They're those jumping ones. God, I think they're just cute. I mean, you know, they don't usually bite people or cause any problems for people, but they do eat bugs, but they do it like they're an ambush predator. They're really pretty cool. Apparently, they have excellent eyesight, too. But I think they're just, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think they're cute. Go figure. All right, number 48, dog's best friend. My first semester at university, I got stuck taking all night classes and didn't get out until about 10 p.m. most evenings. I then would walk from campus to the New Jersey Transit station. Not too far a walk, but it starts to feel spooky in that area at night, and I wasn't 100% sure where I was going since I was still new to the school. So here I am, already a little on edge, when all of a sudden, I hear a sound that will haunt me until the day I die. There was someone barking at me. That's right, barking. I look up and discover a man sitting up in a tree, barking and growling down at me as I walk by. Well, I was freaked out, but afraid that if I ran, it might provoke him to follow me. So I speed walked to the corner and then ran across the street and didn't stop until I was at the train platform. That was by Notorious J, J-E-Y. Wow. Yeah, that's not normal. Men don't usually hide in trees and bark at people. So I would be alarmed at that too. Number 49. A surprise in the basement. I was a junior in college. Me and 5 other guys rented the upstairs of a college house, and there were 2 separate apartments on the first floor. And the basement was communal with a dishwasher or a washer and dryer and a bunch of rooms which were boarded up. The landlord said it was because they needed work and he didn't have the time or the money. Well, anyway, I knew the downstairs occupants, some I had classes with, and one I worked with. My coworker went up to me one day and asked, "Do you ever hear anything weird in the basement?" Come to mention it, I and my roommates had been hearing odd sounds. My coworker said he just heard it again and thought it may be a person. Well, I snuck down, and sure enough, I heard movement in a room. The boards were removed. Now I was sketched out, but I had no idea what was coming. I threw open the door, and this man in his mid-30s, who I had never seen before, casually turned around, and he was in a nice 3-piece dark blue suit. He smiled and said, "Well, hello there. Fine day today, isn't it?" Honestly, I was so caught off guard by his demeanor. "Who are you? How did you get in here and why?" I asked him. Yes, I bet this seems odd. I used to stay here. I just like to stop back from time to time. Tell," in the landlord's name, "that I said hi." Then he swung his jacket over his shoulder, said "excuse me," and walked past. I know I should have grabbed his name or called the authorities, but he knew my landlord's first name, which wasn't listed on the property. I called the landlord and asked who this guy was and why was he here. The landlord was speechless. He replied, "Those rooms are boarded up for a reason. I'll have to secure that again now." "What about the guy?" I asked him. The landlord just hung up on me. Every time someone asked him about it, he just left, hung up, or changed the subject. And it's written by Secretly Bipolar. Okay. Well, I'm sure they still can differentiate reality. All right. Number 50. Monsters under the bed. Every child's nightmare. When I was 12, I woke up in the middle of the night to loud breathing under my bed. I was convinced there was some demon or cryptid or something that was going to eat me. Well, I finally decided to risk it and run up to my mom's room to sleep in her bed. I made it safely without being dragged under the bed. My mom was convinced I just had a nightmare. But the next night, I heard it again. Since it was only around 9 at night, I called my mom so she could hear it. She was about 10 feet away and could hear the breathing clear as day. There was nothing under my bed. Over the next couple of months, I kept hearing it, although not nightly. It slowly started to sound more like purring than breathing. My brother came home from college and checked under the bed and made me lift my hands to double check that I wasn't playing a prank. But we never found out what was breathing under my bed. That was by the Weirdo Wombat. That's... So there's something that seems to come up in paranormal stories all the time. Closets and under beds. And I'm not sure what it is. I think the closets might be a symbolic gateway, maybe, perhaps. I don't know. Or it can be utilized by spirits as a gateway or whatever. I don't know. But closets are always brought up in these stories dealing with spirits and ghosts. They seem to emerge from closets, go back into closets, and never to be seen. When you go and look for them, of course, they're not there. So is that a gateway? Is it possible that a portal has formed in the threshold of this closet? Or what is it? I don't know. But it comes up over and over and over and over. Closets. Tell you. I don't know what the answer is, folks. But if you got closets, Be sure to cleanse your house. All right. Number 51, the Ballroom of Terror. Or horror. It says horror. I used to work in hotels, and this one particular hotel was well known in the area for its paranormal events. But once you'd been there for a while, you'd just get used to it. The events were really rarely frightening. When I was hired, another employee had told me that our large ballroom was haunted, but I was just like, yeah, whatever. So we'd had a week of wedding receptions. The ballroom in this hotel was large enough that it could hold 2 or 3 smaller parties at a time. Every night for that week, we'd had at least one party going in the evenings. On Saturday nights, this one reception was plagued by issues. Light bulbs were blowing out, breakers were tripping, equipment was malfunctioning. Well, I felt bad for the bride and groom because of all the issues, and soon Sunday rolled around, the hotel was quiet, and there were no events scheduled. Well, I headed over to lock up the ballroom, and that included making sure all the lights were turned off. To get to some of the switches, I would have to cross the room to the opposite side. Well, I walked in the door and just stopped. It sounds like a cliche, but all the hairs on my arms and neck stood up. The atmosphere in there just felt really, really tense. I felt like I was intruding, and I just hastily backed out the closed door and closed the door. The 2 guys who set up the audio and visual gear then showed up to set up part of the ballroom for a meeting the following day. They went into the ballroom just as quickly. They promptly came right back out, and one of them said it felt like something was physically stopping them from going any further. The other said he heard something or someone growl something, but couldn't make out any words. Well, I believe the stories about the ballroom after that. And that was by Shishi432234. Every hotel's got their ghosts. And I guess it makes sense because if you think about spiritual attractions, now, if some people, I don't know, perhaps they have left imprints in this building. Some of it might just be residual, just because people are always coming and going in hotels. Some of it, however, might be attractive due to that energy, due to all the energy that's imprinted there. And perhaps those things weren't human, but it's like every hotel has stories. Like the older the hotel, then there's always a jilted bride who throws herself to her own doom and then continues to haunt the place. There's always a small child ghost that seems to have fallen down the stairs and broken their neck and died. And there's so many stories like that across the nation. Now, the interesting thing is by virtue of people believing that, does that what makes it real? Are people actually manifesting these entities to fill that anxiety that they're feeling, and does that anxiety then charge the phenomena and create a reality to it? See, I think we're actually very profound creators, and I think it would probably be pretty safe to say that a lot of hauntings are self-induced. That by virtue of people fearing something and being wound up about something, perhaps that feeds the phenomena. And maybe it starts with a different thing, but it becomes something all its own. So, all right, folks, we're going to go to our hour break. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Don't go away. And we'll get to the second hour of the show. And so far, so good. Great bandwidth. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Ella.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body. scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. Finished with my silence. I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
Caroline is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
Yes, of course they can. Ladies and gentlemen, hour number 2 is now upon us. That's right. Another full hour. The Paranormal Portal is right here, queued up and ready to go. And oddly enough, given that we just followed the break dealing with ghosts and possession and Ouija boards, I found an article that I think might be really timely. Want to hear it? Okay. We'll get into it now. This article is coming from the Occult Museum. The Occult Museum. And the article in question is called Contacting the spirits. 15 people share their scariest Ouija board stories. Be careful what you do. The Ouija board works like a phone, and anyone can answer your call. Now, truth be known, I'm not a big Ouija boards are evil. Don't touch them. You'll lose your soul. I'm not one of those people. But I do think that any kind of channeling should be done by people that understand what they're doing and understand how to protect themselves. Unfortunately, a room full of 13-year-old girls on a slumber party probably is not going to be real good at protecting themselves. And bad things could happen. Or boys, or whatever. Just young people. You're treating it like a game. Now, here's the thing with the Ouija board. I think 90+% of people will use them and never have anything happen. It's just kind of a fun little party game. But there's the 1, 2, 3 to 5% of people that'll have a real hell of a time with it because they'll open a door that they just don't understand how to close. So anytime you contact a spirit, you are creating an opening. You are creating a channel. And with the Ouija board, it's a blind channel. You don't know who you're contacting. You intend to contact maybe Grandpa or Uncle Larry or Aunt Ruth or whatever, but you don't know who you're contacting. And quite honestly, a lot of the lower vibrating spirits don't really have any obligation to be real honest with you. So they may make you think that you're contacting the person that you want to get you to open up more and more. And so I think that they can be used very well and even very successfully, but it's going to rely on a couple of things. First of all, it does take a mental preparation. It takes an understanding or an ability at least to meditate and get into a real relaxed state so that you can become open to this connection. Second of all, you got to protect yourself. You got to know how to set your environment, how to protect your environment from dark things coming through. And so therein lies the key that I think most people miss because it's not on the instructions. It's, hey, pull out the board, put on this piece of plastic. You and your friends touch it and ask questions. And so I think they can be dangerous. They can be dangerous. Even most adults treat it like a foolish drinking game. Yeah, that's true. I mean, a lot of people just don't understand the ramifications. But then again, a lot of people don't acknowledge the spiritual world as being a part of our world. They think it's just a part of a fantasy, concoction of maybe latent minds or bored minds or whatever. But it's very real. What do you think about EVPs? Are they like Ouija boards? No. Here's the difference, and I've heard that comparison a lot, and I disagree completely. When you're doing an EVP, you are putting out a piece of equipment, and truly, if you're really doing EVPs, you really know what you're doing. You're not going to hold on to it. You should put it somewhere where it's not going to be at all influenced by your touch, by any vibration from you or anything. You're going to put it there, and you're going to tell the spirit, hey, if you have something to share, speak into that light or into that device that I just put down. It may be able to record your voice. So you're asking the spirit to interact with an electronic device. Now, here's the difference. When you're using a Ouija board, you are creating a blind channel, but you are asking something to come through you. You are the conduit for which it will interact with the board and create messages. You are the energy that it's going to use to do that. So you are, in essence, inviting something into you. And therein lies the problem. So I don't think that they're one and the same. I don't think that they're relatable in that regard. Now, can EVPs and doing chronic EVPs cause problems? Sure. Because anytime you are establishing communication, it is also a bit of acquiescence or permission to a spirit to interact with you. So you are giving it permission. You can also revoke that permission and say no more, no more. And hopefully that'll be the end of it, but may or may not be. But when you're using a Ouija board, you're saying, come through me. Come through me. Use my energy or the other people's energy to communicate with us. And so that's the difference. That's the problem. So you become the channel in a Ouija board session, but a spirit can interact with a recorder all on its own. It doesn't have to come through you and shouldn't have to come through you. So that's my opinion of it. Thank you. I didn't think so either, but I didn't have the words to say why. Oh, you're welcome. I can't claim to be right. I don't know, but that's my take on it. That's the difference for me is that when you're using a board, you are using your body to connect with it, your energy to connect with it, and to reach out beyond to bring something through. But when you're using a recorder, it's a device. And there's so many examples, even in my own experience, of what I believe to be spirits interacting with electronic devices. They don't seem to have any trouble doing it. It's very, very easy. And perhaps because they're energetic beings, interacting with an energetic device is not hard. But, again, it's all speculation. But that's my take on it. Good, bad, otherwise, maybe it's true, maybe I'm not right. But that's what occurs to me. So I hope that helps. You remove yourself directly from the connection, hopefully reducing chances of an attachment. Well, here's another thing about Ouija boards, since we're on the subject. Closing a session is not drag it across goodbye. That's not going to close a session truly. It may, at least your intention is there and that'll help. But you need to know about opening portals and closing portals and that's more esoteric, that's more occult. And occult just means hidden. Don't let the word occult scare you like, oh my God, it's occult. Creepy, weird stuff. It's hidden knowledge. It's ancient knowledge. And, from many different backgrounds and practices around the world are now pooled into what we call the occult. And a lot of them are shamanic traditions. Some of them are magical traditions. Some of them are witchcraft traditions. Some of them are Egyptian traditions, Norse traditions, Greek traditions from way, way back. So this is just old knowledge is all. But anyway, that's a nutshell speech on Ouija boards. I haven't given it for a long time. So if you look at old shows, you'll hear me say much the same thing way back then. But at any rate, let's get into this article and see what it says about what people have experienced. Again, I don't know. True or not, I don't know, but they're at least represented as true. The first one, who wrote this article, by the way? It's by the Occult Museum, and I don't have a date on it, so I can't give you that. But the first one is vanished. We were hanging out in a friend's dorm room and busted out the Ouija board. There you go, Android. You're absolutely right. There was a few of us who had used them before and a few who hadn't that were quite skeptical. It was about 11 p.m., and the communication with the board was going quite well. Gary, one of the skeptics, kept calling BS to the whole thing. Well, we convinced him to sit on the floor with us and give it a shot. His first question, is this for real or just a bunch of BS? The planchette zipped to no. Fine, he says, still not believing. Prove it. No sooner had he finished that statement, the lights in the room flickered, and the building's fire alarm went off. Well, this freaked us all out, and we left the room to follow fire alarm procedures. After about 20 minutes, campus safety said it was a false alarm and to let us back into our dorms. When we arrived back up to Gary's room, the Ouija board was gone. No one took it with us, and the room was left locked. That was by Hammer Hands. Number 2, are you human? To start mine, I'll have to tell my mom's first. The one and only time she played with it as a kid was enough to last a while. She was with a few friends, and all of them were in their late teens, and they got their hands on a Ouija board. They set it up in the basement and started asking the standard run-of-the-mill questions. Is someone there? Yes. Are you alone? Yes. Do we know you? Yes. Then they asked to spell its name. D-E-V-I. They didn't let it finish, and they all ran upstairs. Fast forward almost 20 years. My mom and I, a few Halloweens ago, decided we'd give ourselves a spook and made our own Ouija board out of paper and a glass. We started to ask the same standard questions. Is someone there? Yes. Are you alone? Yes. Do we know you? No. Well, that piqued my interest. I then asked the one question that probably shouldn't have. Are you human? No. We packed everything up and shut it down awfully quick. I did the best cleansing I knew of, And for a few weeks after, we had weird experiences in our apartment. So we called a medicine man to cleanse the apartment. That was by Branda Lorian. Here's the other parts that might be interesting. Is that when you buy, like I've got a Ouija board on the wall over here, as many of you have seen. It's been in different places depending on my decorating. But a Ouija board out of the box is about as dangerous as a Homer Simpson placemat for your cereal bowl. They're just a design, and the design in and of itself isn't intrinsically powerful. I don't believe that Parker Brothers or whoever has some kind of diabolical plan for people. I just think they make these things because people want to buy them, or whoever makes them, and people are interested, so they make them because they sell. But when you use anything like this, you kind of have to. There's a tradition, a magical tradition that speaks of resonance, and you have to create a resonance between you and your tools. One of the best ways to create a resonance between you and the object that you're working with is to make it. So you're not getting a ghetto version of a Ouija board just because you make your own. You're actually getting one that's already tuned to you because you created it. And so oftentimes homemade Ouija boards can be much more profound and possibly even dangerous because you made it. You made it with an intention. And with that intention, you are imbuing it in the board energetically as you create it. So just so you guys know, that is actually a practice of a lot of magical traditions. To make your own wand, make your own staff, make your own garments and things like that. Make your own talismans. They're all more powerful when you create them yourselves. It's hard to purchase powerful items. You can buy items and then tune them and do things to them and with them that should create a resonance to you and your energy and in your best interest. But making your own Ouija board is not like a cheap copy. It's actually staying right in line with a lot of very old and powerful traditions. So take it or leave it. Again, it's not my objective to convince anybody of anything, but I'm just speaking of things that I've learned. So I hope that helps. All right, let's get to the next one. Come back soon, number 3. And it says, I visited an alleged haunted house with one of my teachers and a few friends, and we spent the night there. Sometime around 4-ish, we talked to one of the 3 girls who had died of cholera in the 1800s. When we communicated with her, we asked her to show herself, and all she responded with was 11:35. Flash forward to 11:35, and everyone is together and is really anxious. 11:35 comes. Nothing happens. We all relax, but at 11:40, my teacher claims she saw a girl in the window. The lights flickered on and off once, and then a constant, loud, scary knocking on the doors next to us. It was very, very frightening. After it seemed over, we pulled out the Ouija board, and the girl confirmed that was her. The next morning, we find notes saying, "Come back soon," scattered across the house, written on torn pieces of paper from a notepad that my teacher brought. That was by Motown 165. Number 4 is the missing friend. When I was little, my mom took out a Ouija board and asked my brother and I if we'd like to play with it. She is generally atheist as well, but she has some odd tendencies. It's difficult to tell if she legitimately believes in some of the things she says or is just messing with us, because she has pretended to believe in a lot of odd stuff in the past just to get a rise out of us. Well, we said yes, setting up the Ouija board in the center of the kitchen table. It started out pretty funny. Someone was obviously moving the glass thing, making words like poop and stuff like that. Jeez. Did I mention we were young enough for that to be hilarious? But then my mom said, it's still hilarious though. Sorry. But then my mom said, let's get serious and try to contact someone. And here's where it gets weird. A friend of hers had recently gone missing. He'd been missing for a month or so, and nobody knew where he was. When we asked who it was we're talking to, his name was spelled out. Let's just say it was George, since I genuinely don't remember. When we asked George if he was my mom's friend, he said yes. My mom got visibly upset and asked where he was. In a lake was spelled out. It was extremely upsetting, and we stopped immediately. Mom tried to be lighthearted about it since I was young. I believed it was no big deal as well, following her lead. About 2 weeks later, they found George's body. He'd been hit by some car or train or something on a bridge, and his body fell into the nearby lake, though it was more like a very large pond. It was a reasonably remote place, so nobody had found it for a while. That was submitted by the Tree Man. Yikes. It's kind of creepy. Dragged through the dirt. In high school, a couple of friends and my friend's mom and myself were talking about a local building being haunted. Soil conditioners that sell dirt, bark, and other landscaping goods rumored to be the location of a murder years before. The mom worked there, so we decided to break out the board and give it a shot. I had never used one before, so I was skeptical from the jump. This place is essentially a large warehouse with tall metal racks, think Costco or Home Depot, stacked with bags of dirt, manure, bark, and other things like ceramic flower pots. The board was glow in the dark, so we kept all the lights off. Once we got going, it started moving around, and I was freaking out already. We asked if something was there to let us know. There was a loud bang, that seemed to come from the rafters on the other side of the warehouse. Every question that followed was met with a similar bang from a various location in the warehouse, sometimes close and sometimes far. The last question asked was if it meant us harm, and the thingy already on the no answer did not move. The question was repeated and immediately followed by the closest noise yet. Seemed right on top of us, so we decided to skedaddle. Okay, sorry. Not used to seeing that in print. As we were rushing out, we flipped on our flashlights and saw 1 or 2 large pots fall from the racks, and we heard what we would later find to be 40-pound bags of bark dropping to the ground. There was also a slow grinding noise that, when my friends returned the next day, was a sledgehammer that had been dragged through the dirt-covered cement floor, standing straight up in the air with drag marks, but no footprints near. I pretty much believe in ghosts now and slept with the lights on for a week. Yeah, that was by Rooster Culhane. Yeah, that's the thing. And there's the other part of it. When you do that kind of stuff, you've got to close it, and you've got to, make statements like, nope, you cannot come with me home. You must stay here. You are not welcome to join me. You are not allowed to join me. Number 6, don't hide from me. A few years ago, my friends, a group of girls, decided to try this out with a group of guys. We were in the 12th grade at the time. My group of girls had messed around with it before, to varying degrees of success. Well, this time it was my hands on the planchette with my other girlfriend, and this thing was moving crazy fast. Faster than I had ever seen, and seemed to be getting quite agitated by the group of guys who were with us, who were joking around and not taking it seriously. It essentially told them to shut up and stop talking. I told the guys seriously, please stop being rude. I'm kind of freaked out. Anyways, because I was getting nervous, one of the guys took over, and he was a bit more serious about it. Almost immediately, the thing spelled out, "Don't open the door." We were all in the basement, and there was only one door, so we kind of looked over at it nervously. Because I was getting anxious, I took the blanket and kind of hid my face. Immediately, it spelled out, "Don't hide from me." Everyone was freaking out. The guy who had his hands on the planchette literally started to cry. He wanted to take his hands off, but we have this rule that you don't take your hands off until you get it to say goodbye. Everyone wanted to stop, but it took about 10 minutes of asking dumb questions until the thing finally slid to goodbye. Some of the guys speculated afterwards that it meant don't open the metaphorical door of the spiritual world. The reason being is we told them to never ask for a sign, or else it kind of lets the spirit roam free outside of the board. Before that guy took over, they kept asking for a sign only for me to cut them off mid-sentence and tell them to knock it off. So this made some sense. Looking back on it, I'm very much quite atheist, so not entirely sure as what to make of the situation, but I won't touch that thing ever again. That's how much of an impact it left. That was by Strange Objects 123. Yeah, that'll do it. Number 7, the red light. This one's a short one. My cousin and her friend had been screwing around with the board for a few days. Nothing really happened. We mostly used it to roll joints on by the end. But one day my cousin was laying on the couch with her phone in her hand. She stretched out and rested the phone on the Ouija board that was on the coffee table. The moment the phone touched it, it started to vibrate. A red light went on, and what sounded like tons of people screaming and talking in tongues came from the phone. It was as if it were on speaker, and it filled the room. We were terrified. It lasted a few moments, and then the phone shut off. We got so freaked out, we threw the board in the garbage and put it on the curb. The phone doesn't even have a red light. That was by Project Naughty. So we're on number 8. I think we'll get we're going to do an article when we come back. So we'll get to that in just a couple minutes. But I guess we can read this one. The Eagle, number 8. One of my best experiences involved talking with the spirit of air, which happened back when I believed only in the mental aspect of magic and thought that the spirits I was talking to were just parts of my psyche. To test this, I asked the spirit to show me some kind of sign of its existence, which I did not expect to manifest. When I asked this, a huge eagle, birds being part of an air spirit's domain, landed right outside of my window, stared at me, like really stared into my eyes, looked down at the board, and flew away. Maybe it was coincidence, but I closed down the communication, did a rose cross banishing ritual, and noped the hell away from the magic for a while. Good times. That was by Enchanted Throwaway. Yeah, here's the thing is so magic is in essence manifesting. I mean, that's just what magic is. And I think we all manifest all the time. So I think we're all doing magical things, but can you manifest something like that? Sure. I think you can. I think, I don't know, it's just me, but I think it's possible. I think that, we're connected to everything, and everything is connected to us, and it's just by virtue of us existing. So our emotions, our energies expand throughout the universe, and the universe expands into us. And it's just this beautiful balance, this beautiful dance. So what are we capable of? Well, all of these things could be manifested by the people. Again, we get back to what I was talking about before, about tulpas, as was mentioned in the chat by Ghost Magnet. Tulpas are basically thought forms. They're manifestations of a person's energy that create a reality of their own. And I think that we create them. And it could be that people create their spirits the same way. They're ghosts. Not to say there aren't real ghosts that are their own thing. And after a point, if you do create a tulpa, it becomes just as real as, any other spirit, I think, because it's been imbued by a creator with that power. So anyway, I don't know. I'm going deep tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going deep. But anyway, we'll get right back to it in just a couple minutes. Last break of the night. So hang in there. We'll be right back with more of the Paranormal Portal. All right, folks, we're back at it. I didn't realize all this time I didn't redo the live chat with the new chat code. So my mistake. If you've been looking at the screen looking for the chat, then that's why. My mistake. But pretty quiet. Bam's over in TFR. How you doing, Bam? Good to see you. Thanks for being over there. Hanging out. He says, I stay away from Ouija boards. Don't know what I'm doing there. Can be dangerous indeed. Yeah, I agree. I mean, they can be, and I don't mean to imply that they're not. Obviously, I think that it depends on the person. You know, it's all about resonance, right? Again, if you have resonance, then a good resonance, you're probably going to attract good things. It's kind of like the way your life works out. What we project is what we receive. So like, if everybody knows that person, doesn't matter what goes on in their life. It always goes to hell. It always just crashes and burns and it's seemingly of no fault of their own. But I often think, cause I've been through periods of that myself. And what I found was, I think it had a lot to do with my perspective on my life, And so I think when you change how you resonate, you can change the circumstances of your world. And I think it goes more than just day to day. It's in everything. So I think resonance is important. So always try to be. That's why I close every show with be good, be kind, be nice, all of that stuff. Because, I hope that in some small way, and I don't have any grand illusions about the Paranormal Portal being this huge thing, but it is growing and there's more and more people listening to it. And I hope that in some small way that message can continue, can germinate and maybe make some kind of difference to somebody that needed to hear it, or, just be a reminder to others, whatever. It's just the portal is my small contribution to the world, and in entertaining you and talking about things that take you out of the normal day-to-day BS that we all get drowned in all the time, all the, darkness of our world and struggles. And this is our time to just relax, unwind, open up, and just think about things that are fun to ponder and maybe even frightening to ponder. But, I don't know. I hope it matters. I just hope it matters. I guess at the end of the day, as I do these shows and, Don does them and we put all this energy into it, I just hope it matters. And you guys coming back over and over, all you core people that have been coming for years, it seems that it does matter. And that's why I love doing these shows, is because it's really an incredible feeling to do something that people want to be a part of. That to me is the greatest compliment, the greatest honor that I could ever have in my life, is to do these shows and you guys continually come back and are a part of it. And so when I say stuff like this is our family, I really do mean it. That we are a collection of weirdos. We're a bunch of weird people, but we just have this cool thing going, and it's what you guys have created. I created a show. I turned on the lights, and all of you amazing people showed up, and I am forever humbled, and I love you all dearly for that. So I don't know. I just felt that was a timely thing to say right now. So hope you don't mind if I get a little sappy. I just think I want you guys to know that this matters. It's just great. It does matter, Brent. It's when you have to say goodnight that sucks. Well, believe me, brother, I would do shows, for all night if I was able to. But I will tell you this, that I found my peeps. Amen, Ghost Magnet. Android says it matters having these discussions in the world are needed much more. Yeah, I think so too. But I don't remember what I was going to say. I was going to say something else sappy, but just know that I love you guys, and it means the world to me that you keep coming back, and I really, really appreciate it. And, I hope you continue to enjoy this, because, what I was going to say is that I would do these shows all night, but I tell you, when I am done, it's hard to shut down every show, but after I do, I just feel like, because you put a lot of energy into it. I try to put energy into every show and just, push that energy out to all of you. And you guys send me that back in terms of your your hearts, your messages, and comments on the videos and all of that. So it really does matter. And so thank you guys for that. Paranormal Portal, Brent, your reach exceeds your grasp. For what else is the portal for? Thank you, Rachel. You're absolutely right. Thank you so much. I appreciate hearing that. We love you, Brent. Glad you are here. Thank you, Cold Stairs. I appreciate that a bunch. This is why I'm doing this. And of course, it's neat to find all of you that resonate with me. I think that's the cool part, is because, being a paranormal enthusiast, it's easier today than it's ever been. But having this community of like-minded people and people that are on the same wavelength and learning from each other. You guys have taught me as much as I've taught you. I hope I've taught you something, but I know you guys have taught me a ton, and just having these dialogues is so valuable. So group hug, bring it in. Bring it in. I wish I had an aw sound effect, but I don't have one yet. I may by the next show, though. That'll be for the group hugs. Aw. Just a thought. But we are a bunch of crazies. You're right, Patrick. But if you guys are crazy, you're my kind of crazy. That's all I got to say. I was more or less a motivational speaker for 35 years, and I understand that. When you close, you breathe. Yeah, that's very true, Tracy. And it's cool. Love you, Brent. We are family. Thank you, Trish. I appreciate that. Love you, too. Love you all. You guys are amazing. All right. Are you ready for more of the paranormal goodness that I prepared for you tonight? Actually, I didn't prepare the next part. It was prepared for us by this amazing guy we've all come to know and love here on the Paranormal Portal. His name is Brent Swancer. I thought we'd throw in a cryptid into the end of the show here. And Brent Swancer is the man when it comes to articles and covering the weirdness. And this is an article of his on mysteriousuniverse.org. Great sites. Please check it out. Any of the sites that we use during the show, I hope you guys go and check them out and frequent their pages and do what you can to support what they're doing, because it's just a bunch of amazing people out there working really hard to bring out this information. So the article in question is Brent Swancer again. Amazing writer, incredible guy who's become a friend of mine on social media, but he has a paranormal group on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, check out Dark League Paranormal and get involved over there. He's always working real hard to keep that group going, much harder than I work at the groups that we have. But he's so motivated and such a great guy. So again, Dark League Paranormal on Facebook. Definitely support what he's doing over there because he's a great guy. All right. What we're going to talk about now is the mysterious Moss Man of Florida. From April 18th, 2019, Brent Swancer on mysteriousuniverse.org. The thick swamps of Florida can be a spooky place, to say the least. Their tangles of cypress trees, vines, and brush clouded with mosquitoes and infested by all manner of insects and snakes. The murky, muddy waters prowled by alligators lying in wait for the unwary. When the sun goes down, the swamp comes alive with sounds not always immediately identifiable. This symphony of the night, punctuated with shrieks and squawks from unknown sources, casting this place further into an eerie ambience that invites tales of strange monsters prowling its darkest recesses. One of these is supposedly a hulking thing that wades through the waters and crashes through all in its path, a glowing-eyed beast known only as the Moss Man. The creature in question gets a strange name from its rather unique appearance. Humanoid, bipedal, and somewhat ape-like in appearance, standing around 7 feet tall, it at first may sound like the hairy hominid such as Bigfoot, but the odd details make it even stranger. The Moss Man earns its unusual name from the copious foliage and grass that seems to either grow on it or to be intertwined and entangled in its hair, making it have a green cast to it and helping to camouflage it nearly perfectly, with some of the sightings saying that it was at first mistaken for an overgrown tree or log before it suddenly stood up to walk off through the swamp. The eyes are also said to glow an amber or reddish hue, with some reports even claiming that they have an almost hypnotic quality to them. According to some local lore, the Mossman had allegedly been encountered in these wetland wildernesses since at least the 1800s. One such report from this era is that a large man-like beast with a rank order and covered with swamp grass had been terrorizing the swamp in the area of Clay County and raiding rabbit pens and livestock of residents, prompting a local sheriff called Sheriff Peeler to organize an armed posse of men expressly for the purpose of hunting it down. They apparently spent several weeks slogging through the muck, dodging alligators and venomous snakes in search of it, without success. Other strange reports at the time sometimes describe fishermen being menaced or even attacked by an ape-like brute with leaves and branches covering it. Another, even earlier legend might have sprung from the presence of the creature, according to this particular tale. In the 1500s, Spanish conquistadors supposedly took advantage and killed and beheaded a local native girl, subsequently tying her disembodied head to a tree and greatly angering the tribe. Their most powerful medicine man then used his magic to call upon the spirits of the swamp to seek out vengeance, after which the girl's head grew to be a part of the wilderness and take on a human form of weeds, branches, and other vegetation, going on to hunt down any Spaniards she could find. In some versions of the story, a witch doctor in later years created his own golem of foliage to keep the Spanish away, and that when this threat was gone, it went off to continue to prowl the swamps to this day. Kind of looks like the Swamp Thing from DC Comics. Excuse me. While these reports and legends are interesting, the Mossman truly made its debut in the public consciousness in 1978. In this year, a couple claimed that they had been taking a leisurely stroll along a beach in the city of Boca Raton, right up along the Everglades swampland, when they spotted something odd lying there upon the sand by a rocky outcropping. As they drew nearer, they saw what had appeared to be a person in a raincoat sprawled out face down. However, as they passed it, what they had taken at first to be a man stood up to stare at them with baleful, glowing red eyes, and they could see that it was no human being. The interesting detail is that what they had thought was a raincoat was actually nothing of the sort, and it was in fact what looked like twisted mat of thick moss, grass, and leafy foliage. The couple apparently fled for their lives as it loomed there glaring at them with those fierce eyes, or fiery eyes. When they went back later to investigate, there was apparently some Spanish moss strewn about where the creature had been, but no sign of the beast itself. When this report hit the news, others began to come out of the woodwork with their own stories of spotting a similar massive bipedal creature with moss and leaf-encrusted body, sometimes in the swamp and other times on the beach, or even cavorting about within the waves, especially in the vicinities of Red Reef Park, West Palm Beach, and Hillsborough Beach. The most famous of these reports comes from 1980, when an elderly couple was visiting Red Reef Park, a 67-acre coastal nature preserve. The couple purportedly had been hiking through the scenic area when they sighted a green object through the trees upon a branch. The woman approached thinking it was some wondrous swamp bird perched on the mossy tree, but this bird then turned around and showed itself to be the fierce-looking face of the Mossman. The tree, its enormous body, the terrified woman had apparently been so close at the time that she genuinely feared for her life, but the brutish creature turned back around and loped off into the wilderness. There have been sporadic sightings of the Mossman ever since, with accounts variously describing what seems to be a flesh and blood animal or on other occasions claiming that the thing is more ghostly or demonic in nature, able to appear or disappear at will, or even shroud itself in a cloud of mist. Considering the details of the reports, theories have abounded on what the creature could be. Some are more along the lines that this is some sort of Bigfoot-like creature, either covered with vegetation that has grown on it or intentionally covering itself with this foliage as a form of camouflage to allow it to blend into its environment. Other more far-out ideas are that this is some sort of humanoid plant, a forest spirit, an interdimensional entity, a demon, an alien or an avatar of the swamp itself taking human form. More rational explanations are that it is merely a trick of light on the trees. Someone like a hunter in a camouflaged outfit called a ghillie suit, or even that it is all pure myth and urban legend. What is this thing? Whatever it may be, the legend of the mysterious Moss Man lives on. That's really interesting. I've never heard of this before, but that's why I like this guy's articles. He introduces me to so much strangeness that I never have encountered before. And again, you can find it on Mysterious Universe in Brent Swanser archives. But I do have to say, what is this? Android. Maybe it's just what Sasquatch looked like after getting out of a big, nice swamp bath. A swamp bath would give anyone the name Skunk Ape. Yeah, that's probably true. I do believe that Sasquatch camouflage themselves. So if you look at a military sniper, they wear these ghillie suits. Now, that's only half of what they do. What these guys do is they have these ghillie suits, which are like a base color. And they do have a pattern to it, and it's basically meant to look like grass or weeds or whatever. But what they do after that is they go into the environmental area where they're going to do their work, and they adorn that same suit with local things like twigs, grasses, leaves, and they attach them. And you can buy leaf kits and stuff for, to blend into different environments. And they may do that in order to really blend into the environment so that it looks like it's part of the natural area. Now, there's been many reports about Bigfoot. Some people see them surprised at how well groomed they look. The coat is so silky and shiny, and you can tell it's really taking care of itself, or it's grooming, or it's been groomed by others of its type or whatever. And then other people talk of reports of like seeing moss and plants embedded in there, and mud and all kinds of stuff that's embedded into their fur or their hair, the body hair. I don't think it's fur, I think it's hair. But it seems to have been done very intentionally, not because I don't think these beings are brutish and animalistic. I think they're intelligent. And I can't see why they wouldn't do something similar. Now, I had heard it postulated that they may have applied mud to their hair all around their body to protect themselves against arrows, because of course that mud would harden and become a pretty significant barrier against Native American arrows of ancient times. And so perhaps that was part of how it started. But I believe that they probably do try to camouflage themselves even more to blend into the local surroundings. And then when they're done, when they're going out to hunt, they all may do this. And then when they're done, they've got their whatever they came out to get. Then they probably all go wash and groom and because here's the thing, I don't know. Even dreadlocks take a lot of managing, and that's a bunch of tangled hair. But it still takes a lot of managing to keep them looking appropriate. It's not like you just let them go and that's it. But I just think that that's part of what they do, and it's kind of it makes sense to me if they are intelligent, and I believe they are, like in our ballpark intelligence. Well, then why wouldn't they do the same things that these military personnel do? That they would adorn themselves with local, fresh stuff that they're finding into their hair to become even harder to see. Because, I think that primarily they're ambush hunters. I think that they just blend right in, and once a deer walks by, they just reach out and grab it. Or some other animal. It's like they blend into their surroundings. So it seems to make sense to me that that's one of the activities that they would do, because I can only imagine it would only increase their odds of being successful in their hunts, which have got to be absolutely of utmost importance, because they don't have drive-throughs and convenience marts and stuff. They can't go to the grocery store and pick up the milk and the bread and stuff. They got to get it. They got to earn it. So, and maybe it just comes from just walking through the wilderness. I mean, they're always talking about, breaking through this thick brush. Well, I imagine it would get lodged into the hair as they go. So perhaps that's possible too, but I think it's probably more intentional. A Bigfoot with dreadlocks, holy Carolee. I wouldn't want to be the hairdresser who did that. Yeah, I hear you. That would be, I would think it would be painful because, of course, I have seen, this was years and years and years ago in Minneapolis. I was in the downtown area, and there was this indoor mall, and it wasn't a cold day, but it was kind of cold. It was like fall or early spring. I can't remember which, but this homeless woman came into this mall area where I was, and it's clear she was looking for something, possibly just to come in out of the cold or whatever. But her hair, she had long hair, but it was this huge matted mass. It was so unruly. I mean, the only answer would have been to shave it. I mean, that was the only thing that could be done. But, my heart just broke seeing her. And I was a young, 18-year-old kid at the time. I'd never seen a homeless person before. I didn't know what to do. And I just saw that. And then instantly, I just felt so sad and so crushed that a person was living that way. Well, I mean, that's the way hair is. If you have longer hair, and of course, Sasquatch are purported to have like 8-inch hairs off their arms and stuff. Well, they're not taking care of it. It's going to be a matted mess too. Hell, I got long hair in the back in a braid, and if I don't take it out and comb it out and put it back in, I'm going to end up with a bald circle on the back of my head just because, hair grows, and as it grows, if it's not taken care of, it just becomes a tight mess. So, Paranormal Portal, do you have background music going? I've never heard it before. Just wondering. What you're hearing is Native American flutes playing out on my Alexa device. I just like to listen to that all the time. It's good background music. It keeps me all mellow. You don't want to see me mad. I'm just kidding. I just like it. It's fine, it's soothing and stuff. So I always have it playing that, and it just loops. It's really cool. So if you're hearing that, that's what it is. It's Native American flute being played out in another room near here. I usually stop it before the show, but I forgot tonight. That's my deal, but that's what you're hearing. So anyway, that's my thoughts on Sasquatch. I'd love to know what you guys think. Do you think they camouflage themselves? Do you think that they might actively use active camouflage as well on their fur in order to blend in better to their environment? Let me know what you think. And if you're watching this later, let me know in the comments, because I seriously am only hypothesizing, but I just find it interesting that sightings can vary so much. Its hair was a mess. It had mud and sticks and twigs and leaves in it. It looked like a disaster. And then you hear other reports. It's like its hair was so silky smooth. It looked like it just came out of a salon. And so you get this whole variation of what people are seeing. And I got to believe it's got to be intentional. I got to believe that. I think all prime apes groom each other. So would not be surprised if Sasquatches were all well groomed. I think they can be, but I think that they can also intentionally do that. Oh, thanks, Trish. Yeah, it's just Native American food. I love that kind of stuff. I like soothing background music. I don't know. It's just, it's really spiritual. I think it's beautiful. Beautiful music. But at any rate, night spent. Yes, we can hear it. Okay. Well, I hope I don't get a copyright strike for that if it's coming through. Hope you're not hearing too much. That's all I listen to. Paranormal Portal, great music. Yeah, I'm with you, Flat Rock. Absolutely. I agree. They do anything they can to hide from us. If octopuses disguise themselves, then there's no reason a Sasquatch cannot. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that that's a very possible thing. So let me know if you're watching this later. Please leave me a comment. Do Sasquatch actively camouflage themselves physically like that? Or what do you think's going on? But at any rate, folks, this has been a production of the Paranormal Portal. I hope you're leaving this show being wildly entertained. Again, sorry for all the technical glitchy stuff at the beginning of our journey. Seems to have worked great after I restarted the router. If you have a router in your home, they recommend you restart them every week. And usually I remember, but this week I didn't. I've just been swamped since Don and I got back from Medellin Falls. We're going to be going to Kelso, Washington for a Bigfoot festival at the end of July as well. So that's another thing coming up if you're in that area. I'm not familiar with where Kelso is, but that's another one going on. So I hope you guys maybe individually they might buy a personality in innovation. They have their own environment. Yeah, that's a very good point, Rachel. Great show, Paranormal Portal. Thank you. Thank you, Maggie. I appreciate it. You guys make it special. Again, I just turned on the lights. I'm just glad you guys show up to hear me yap. I'm glad you show up for my gum running. Don's fault. Maybe. Nah, it's not Don's fault. All right. Just remember, guys, I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. Love you guys. Stick around for Paisley Wild coming up next. The Spaces Between.